so excited to talk with him about that and so many other resources that he has. So, Jeremy, welcome to Autism Live.
So good to be here. Hi.
I'm so sorry that we're a little bit late today. I got a little verbose. That's the word I want. So, Jeremy, first of all, I think everybody's intrigued now and wants to know everything that there is to know about My Best Social Life. Tell us a little bit about where, so obviously we can go to mybestsociallife.com, but is there anything else that we need to know before we launch into some of the things? Because you're going to talk with us about 5 steps from going from lonely and isolated to a vibrant social life. But tell us first about mybestsociallife.com.
My best social life is a passion project. If you'd asked me, 20 years ago, do I think I'm going to be an autism dating and friendship coach? I would have said absolutely not. I was on my way to a very successful career as a lawyer. I spent 7 years as a prosecutor in New York City and another 7 years as a litigator at JP Morgan Chase Bank. And here I am, but it's
But you were
because
saved. You were saved from all that because that
I
could have
actually
been fun.
loved being a prosecutor. This I got paid
Really?
in stories. It's just that stories didn't pay the mortgage. Um, no, my legal career was a lot of fun, but it actually really prepared me for this. And so my best social life is a passion project because I've always loved teaching and I've always loved the idea of helping people live a better life. And the autism community invited me in. I didn't seek it out. I'm not on the spectrum, much the same way you're not. I'm what I would call neurotypical. But I was running dating programming in New York City, primarily at the Jewish Community Center of Manhattan. And unbeknownst to me, there were 3 special needs organizations under the JCC roof, and I was invited into all of them, and I stayed 3 years doing some programming at adaptations at the Silver Center for Special Needs. And I stuck around. I loved the autism and neurodiverse community so much, and I saw such a need, and that no one had really cracked the code on how to help people make friends and start dating. So if you ask, what's my superpower, it's tenacity. And I knew that if anyone was going to crack the code, it was going to be me. And I've been sort of in this community for the last 12 years. I've loved every minute of it. And I offer some resources at no cost to people. So if you go to mybestsociallife.com, you'll see there's a free training for parents. You'll see that there's a free training for singles on the spectrum. I also have a free Facebook group for parents and a free Facebook group for singles on the spectrum. And for every family that goes through my training or every family that wants it, I offer a free strategy session where we get together for 90 minutes, no cost, and me and the parents and the young adult, we talk about what do you want in your social life. We dig deep into what the obstacles are, and then we sort of outline what's the path from where you are now to where you want to be. And then, at the end of that talk, sometimes parents want to work with me, in which case we can talk about the program that I run, Social Life 360. And a lot of times, we're just not a right fit, or you just want to take the information we talked about and run with it, and that's fine too. But that's my best social life.
Love it.
It's my way of helping people on the spectrum and their families get from a place of loneliness and isolation to a more vibrant social life with friendships and dating and maybe even more.
And I want everybody to know all those resources that you were mentioning. Traven has also put links so that you can get to Jeremy's sites and resources in the descriptions if you're watching us on YouTube. So you can check that out in the descriptions. Now, Jeremy, you say that this is the time, that this is a particularly great time to begin to work on this kinds of stuff, that it's the best time. Why? Why is this the best time in the world for folks on the spectrum to be working on social skills?
Yeah, it seems really counterintuitive that the best time to be working on your social skills is sort of, during a pandemic, but I really believe that that's true. And the reason why is because everybody is lonely, not just people on the spectrum, everybody is lonely. I mean, if you look behind me, it's an empty house and I live in a suburb. And, I come from New York City where I used to work on Wall Street and I'm lonely, right? And I'm the most extroverted person you'll ever meet. We are all just in this state of deprivation of human contact. And what I think it means is that when the world reopens and we're all allowed to just go out and be ourselves, I think that there are going to be millions and millions and millions of people who start socializing again with an open heart and an open mind. And I think that there's going to be a window of opportunity for all of us to make new friends and start new relationships because there's such a deep desire that has been pent up during this pandemic. And so what I think will happen is that if you wait to start building your social life and your social skills when, the world reopens, you're going to miss that window of opportunity.
Yeah,
But if you
I
start
agree.
working now on building those social skills and you start practicing, what you need to do now, then when the world reopens, you're going to be there and ready.
Yeah,
That's why I say it.
I agree. I actually agree. So let's go over what are your 5 quick steps from going from lonely and isolated to a vibrant social life filled with new friends and relationships.
So, number one is I think that you need to know what you want your social life to be. Okay. Number two, you got to be in the right places to find the people who will make you happy. Um, Number three, you have to have a mental library of things that you want to talk about, questions you want to ask, so that you can have more fluid conversations. Number four, very much to your point a little while ago, know what your superpower is. I call it autism superpowerification. Know what your superpowers are so that you can use them to your advantage. And number five, have the right mentor who can hold your hand through the process so that you don't get stuck and you don't get overwhelmed.
I think that those are a great roadmap because I think we can all identify on that list. If you love someone who's on the spectrum, you could look at that and go, "Oh, they definitely have one, and they're definitely they've got four." But there's always one where they're struggling a little bit more, and all it has to be is one of these that's off, and it can be not only like not beneficial to them, but to the point where I've had people write into us, Jeremy, that are adults on the spectrum that are trying to crest this. And, there's one guy who the girl called the police just because he was trying to talk to her in a
Right.
restaurant. And he was being nice and he was being kind, but she didn't understand the signals that he was sending. And so she called the police. And you want to talk about being aversive. He was like, I'm never talking to another girl again. So, all it takes is for something to be a little bit not what it needs to be, and the whole machinery falls apart. So, there are many parents that are out there that are just hoping and praying that their kids are going to figure this out on their own. And I think you would make the case that why would we put them through that?
Yeah, why would we put them through that? The statistics are devastating. The last statistic that I saw is that, 91% of adults on the spectrum never find their long-term partner. And, something like 60% or more, never even find a girlfriend. And so, regardless of what the actual numbers are, we know from our own experience and just from our own lives and just looking around that most people on the spectrum never really solve this loneliness problem, and so they spend most of their time either alone or isolated. And the fact of the matter is that for a lot of people it doesn't need to be that way, right? The difference between success and failure can be something as simple as having a mentor who just holds your hand through the process and knows what to do. And, I know that my kids are really looking forward to the Olympics coming up. And one thing that I always tell them is look at every athlete who is in the Olympics, look at every sports team. There's not a single person competing anywhere at any level who doesn't have a coach. And the reason why is because we're just awful as human beings at looking at ourselves and diagnosing what's going wrong and what needs to go right. Not a single one of us is particularly good at it,
Yeah.
right? People who succeed at things are people who have experts holding their hand along the way and telling them this is what's going wrong and this is what you need to do better, and I'm going to be here through the process to help you get there.
Yeah, I think we all get this in little pockets, but maybe we don't spread it to other things. I came from a family. My dad was a softball coach and a baseball coach, and so the idea of having a coach for sports always was in my family. But no one acknowledged that. At one point, my mother had a business, and there was never a question. It was out of the question that my mother would have a business coach for how to run her business. That was never a thought. And now, of course, I recognize that people who have really successful businesses almost
Mm.
always had some level of coaching to get there, even if it was just for one aspect of it. So
I have 5 business coaches.
there you go.
I
There you
I
go.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't run a business without a coach because it means that I'm reinventing the wheel every time something goes wrong. I have a whole
Amen to
team of
that.
people that coach me, and
Amen
I'm
to
not
that.
ashamed of it.
And we can't just have this idea in our heads, you guys, that our kids are just going to sort this out. A coach is a really important thing. So, Jeremy, take us through some of the nuts and bolts. So, let's say I'm a mom in Indiana and I've got a 20-year-old son, and I'm like, ooh, this is right what I need. Am I somebody that you can work with, or can we do long distance to do that? Or do you need to, do they need to be where you are?
So funny, I actually just signed up a client 2 weeks ago from a family in Indiana. So,
There you go.
I have a couple of clients in Indiana right now. The beauty of this world that we live in now, is that it's not just coaching, even in medicine right now, right? We're doing telehealth. I've talked to a lot of experts in the autism field. Everyone is doing stuff by, over the internet. And so, interestingly enough, what, maybe a half hour south of you on the 405 freeway, Shannon.
Yeah.
I don't have a single client currently in California. Most of them
Oh,
are
well,
on the
let's
East
fix that.
Coast. What?
Let's fix
Yeah.
that.
The East Coast loves me. I have been adding clients in New Jersey for whatever reason at a very rapid rate. Um, but that's the beauty of the world that we live in now. A lot of the teaching that I do is actually by online module. And the reason why is because, 80-90% of what you need to be social is kind of the same for everybody. And so by giving my clients online modules, they can watch it 1,000 times, right? And do it on their schedule, not on mine, and that's not something that requires you to live in Orange County where I live. You can be anywhere. I have a client now in Australia, the most wonderful human being, and he's in a different day than we are, right? Today is what,
Yeah.
Wednesday here, it's Thursday where he is, but it doesn't matter anymore because, the skills that you need to learn are things that can be taught over the internet. And frankly, it's better for people on the spectrum to be learning over the internet because it allows them to learn when they're ready to learn, and it allows parents to be part of the journey when they're ready to be part of the journey, and that might be in the morning, it might be in the evening. Last night, I met a family who became a client. It was 1 in the morning on the East Coast. That was their time,
Wow. Yeah.
and so that's the beauty of the internet and the world that we live in now.
There we go. Now they're writing in and wanting to know, is there an age, like, are you only working with teens and adults? Because somebody says, how can I help my son who's 6 make friends? But are you only working on that older group, or what do you think?
Yeah, so I tend to work with, young adults who are 18 plus, and I think it goes back to something that you were talking about before, right? There's that cliff at 18, right? From 0 to 18, there's plenty of resources, generally speaking, depending on where you are in the country. And you don't need me, but then you hit 18 years old and suddenly you realize, okay, I don't have, resources at my disposal anymore, but I also don't have the social skills I want or the social life that I want. And what do I do now? And
Yeah.
so that's where I come in. But even more than that, I've also found that, when kids are too young, they just don't want it enough. If you want to build social skills, if you want to build a social life, it's no different than building muscle. You got to go to the gym every day, right? And so building social skills requires effort every single day. And what I found over, the dozen years that I've been in this community is that the older you get, the more you're watching your peers lap you and you're falling behind, and the more you're motivated to do the work. So my clients tend, on the young side are 18, 19. Most of them are in their 20s and 30s. But I've worked with people in their 60s and 70s because they thought that this problem was going to be solved. And they turned around, 30, 40 years later. And now, now they're over 65 and they've still never had a real girlfriend or a real boyfriend or the partner that they wanted. And they come to me. So, for someone who's 6 or 7, yeah, this is something you really wanna work on, and it's something that you absolutely wanna work on with, an expert who knows how to help a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old build social skills. And does my methodology, help? Yeah, I think so, right? Go into mybestsociallife.com, take the parents training. I think that those steps are helpful. But from the perspective of, is that someone who I would work with? I think that there are just resources that are much more specialized in young kids than I am. And that's the recommendation I would make. Find the right person, find the right mentor.
Well, and interestingly enough, the last time I talked to you, you either were on your way to or had just come from a meeting with Liz Lageson. And
I was just on the phone with her, yes.
yeah, and Dr. Liz Lageson created the Peers program, which for those of you who are writing in that have 6 and 8 year olds, I'll be honest. When Dr. Lageson created that program, she was really looking at working with kids in that in between age, like the 13 to 18. And then there was such an outcry of people saying, "But my kid is 5. Let's lay the groundwork here." So she now does have an online program for kids those age. You guys, it's the Peers program, PEERS. You can look it up, and we'll invite Dr. Lageson to come back on. We had her on a long time ago, but in COVID, they've been doing it all online. And you guys, if you've got the young ones, do that. But I will tell you, for those who have the teenagers that are the older teenagers, the 18, 19, and up, so many of you have written in before and said that you have adult children that I think, I mean, the truth is that we all kind of want. I think that one of the reasons why the show, The Big Bang Theory, was so successful was that it was a group of people who were all over the map and the spectrum in terms of different issues and capabilities, but they had found this core to work together, and it was this friendship through all that diversity. I personally loved it because I thought, oh, someday if my son can have a core of friends that are like that, that I would be just thrilled and delighted. And of course, as the show progressed, they all had romances and got married, and I think that was exciting for us to see. And I think that we all want some piece of that for our kids, as well as there are people watching that want that for themselves. So, I from what I hear from you is that it's a combination of giving them homework and modules to watch, but then there's also one-to-one mentorship with you. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, so, what I found to be successful is a combination of things, and by the way, shout out to, Liz Laugeson, who's been an incredible inspiration to me, and I say that because one of the things that Peers does that I have now incorporated into my program is parents. The exact same training and the exact same strategy I give to, someone who's on the spectrum, I teach that to the parents too. And the parents come to, to the weekly group calls that we do with my clients as well. And my parents have their own chat community so that they can be supportive of one another. And that's really a testament, to Liz, because for the last 10 years, parents came to me. They said, "Here's the struggle that my young adult is having," you know, and I hand my young adult over to you and sort of wash my hands of the rest of the process. And really, thanks to Liz, I've understood how important it is for parents to be pushing in the same direction and feel included in the process. So just a big shout out to her. A little bit more to your question, Shannon. I find that in order for someone to be successful in socializing, they need to have the strategy, they need to have world class support, and they need to feel like they're part of a community. And so, what my program does that I think is really different from anything else on the planet is, yes, I give you the strategy, and I do it in a way that's very, very step by step and very manageable. I send an email to my clients every day that says either here's the module that you should be doing and the strategy that you should be learning, or here's the assignment that you should be doing to practice, right? And we do that over the course of 12 weeks. And as I said before, my clients can and their parents can watch the modules 100 times if they want to. But that's only one aspect of it. I think that, if you want to stay motivated, you really need to feel good about yourself. And so once a week, all of my clients and their parents get together on a Zoom call. We have one tonight, in fact. And all we do is we celebrate my clients' victories, right? We celebrate what's going right. And I do a little bit of coaching here and there, and I answer some questions, but it's really about all the clients and their parents in my community getting together, seeing each other's faces, and celebrating the progress that they're making because it's truly inspiring. And then yes, we do some one-to-ones where, I get together with the young adults or with, with my client and their parents, and we do some coaching and we do, even more celebrating. But really, truthfully, I actually think that's the least important aspect of it. right? The most important aspect is feeling like you're loved and embraced. And my clients actually have their own chat group and they spend the entire day talking to each other about their favorite comedians and their favorite movies and their favorite TV shows and music. And they keep each other company all day, right? And they develop friendships amongst themselves. And that really gives them the inspiration and the motivation to also do the work.
Well, I think it's amazing. Again, where do we want to send people first? Best go to mybestsociallife.com.
Yeah, I think it starts by taking the training, and the training is free, right? There's one for parents, there's one for singles, and you really get that overview of what's my philosophy, what's my strategy, and at the end of the day, for a mentorship to work, for me to want to work with you and you to want to work with me, we have to mesh, we have to feel good about each other. And so I think taking that training gives you sort of an overview of who I am, what I do, what's my personality like. And then at the very end of it, there's a link. If you want to have a strategy session, we'll do that. And it doesn't cost anything. And we'll get together for 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. And we'll talk about, what do you want in your social life? What's going wrong? And what's the roadmap to fixing it? And at the end of that, as I said, you can take the roadmap and do whatever you want with it, or we can have a conversation about whether I'm the right mentor for you, or maybe I'm not. And maybe there is another program or someone else that you should be talking to. And
There
that's
we go.
fine.
Jewel has written in and says that she is an 18-year-old, and due to COVID, large turnover in person support help and new help all the time, it feels like they're continually starting over at square one. Now, obviously, for your service, that's not an issue, right? Because it's you and you're not having staff turnover, or are you now having other people do this as well as you?
No, I do this all by myself. This is a labor of love, and I try to keep the group small enough that I can do everything, on my own. And I know that one day I'm going to have to expand, and I kind of know who I want to expand with and how I want to expand. But as of right now, it's just me. There's no turnover. I'm
Okay,
the
so
same
no
guy
turnover.
I've been for the last 12 years.
So Jewel, I want to encourage you, go and take the first. It's, I mean, it's free. The training is free. It's not going to cost you anything, and you'll definitely learn something that's useful to you. And then if you want more information, you can reach out to Jeremy and see if you guys are a good fit, because it has been tough in COVID. It's been, and look, we could pick it apart for every single age group. There's been different things that are tough. But listen, I've got an 18-year-old, which means that, this hit when he was 16. And it's just so frustrating because all of the opportunities that that for our kids, both yours and mine, Jewel, all the opportunities that they would have had from 16 to 18, it's almost like during those years you get a little bit of a pass that you can kind of mess things up and nobody holds it against you socially. But our kids just didn't have that time, and now suddenly they're 18 years old. Everybody's looking at them as adults, but socially, our kids were behind to begin with. And then they just had 16 to 18 yanked out of their time zone. It's a hard time. And I know a lot of people are suffering from shortage of staff. But this is a way that you can just totally go do an end run around that and get support for your kiddo, that's really positive. And I'm assuming, Jeremy, that you can help us to catch up for these missed years.
I can certainly try. Just to stack on what you were saying, Shannon. When the world started to reopen for the first time, call it 6 months ago. I don't know, 5 months ago, whatever. I reached out to all of my old clients to see how they were doing, and there are two clients in particular who allow me to sort of tell their story. One's name is Josh, and one's name is Rob. And I was on the phone with both of them, sitting, in the very same seat where I am now, and they both told me the exact same thing. I feel like I'm rusty, and I feel like I'm back at square one. And guess what? Like, we
Me
all are,
too.
right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
right. You too, me too. We all are. We all spent a year and change not flexing our social skills muscles. And so even though, Josh and Rob had graduated the program, they came back and we worked together to resharpen those skills. Rob now has a girlfriend, and so he regraduated the program. Josh is, out and about doing stuff, in his neck of Pennsylvania all the time, 2, 3 times a week, and landed a couple dates, but at the very least is just hanging out with friends and truly being social. And for them, it was a little bit of, rehoning those social skills, and a big dose of, holding their hand, and letting them know that they are, lights in this world, and that there are people waiting for them, and, just sort of like nudging them to get back out there and do it. So, you
I
know,
love it.
there's not a mom and dad, in the autism community or in lots of other communities who doesn't feel like their young adult got set back by COVID, and it's true. And we all did, including the moms and the dads.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that we can't pick up from square one and start making progress.
Absolutely. So again, go to mybestsociallife.com and check out all the resources that are there. We also put links in the description so that you can find them. And then if you like what you see there, reach out to Jeremy, and he's available for that more comprehensive coaching, even one-on-one coaching. So we're so glad that we could showcase this amazing resource. Jeremy, thank you so much for what you
My
do and for being
pleasure.
here with us.
My pleasure. I really, by the way, Shannon, loved the mall map idea. I haven't really thought about it, but as someone who's new to California, I am constantly lost.
Yeah.
I'm lost in South Coast Plaza. I'm lost in everywhere. And so, the idea that there are maps to sort of help me where I need to go is just such a really beautiful idea. And constantly being, correcting my course so that I get to where I'm going.
Well, and think about it, you guys. Later on this summer, I'm hoping to get to a wedding that is someone that I've known. Like the first adult that I ever met on the spectrum is getting married to someone else that I know, and it's a wedding that we all want to be at because it is the ultimate success. It's the thing that we always wanted for him. That he is in love with a woman who is just drop dead in love with him, and it just makes me happy and grin whenever I think about it, right? Isn't that what we all want for our kids, to be in this really loving relationship where they are respected and loved for who they are, not in spite of it? And if we really are on the mall map and we're like, well, I'm here and I don't know where I am, and that's where I want to get, we have to chart a course. It's only occasionally that you just luck into showing up where you meant to go to begin with. So let's chart courses. And Jeremy's got a way to help you to do that for our kids and for ourselves, so that we can all be happy grandparents. Because really, that's what I want. I would like a happy kid in a happy relationship. And I'm like the Saturday Night Live skit. I'm like, can I have a grandbaby?
Truly though, Shannon, I know you got to move on, but like that was life changing for me too. So when everyone takes the training, you'll see that one of my clients, Douglas, got married, and not only did he get married, but he invited me to be in the wedding,
Oh,
and so I gave a blessing to him and his bride under the marital canopy. But what
good.
was so life changing for me was I looked out at this group of people who were in this wedding hall in Queens, and I thought to myself like, this doesn't happen. They're not here if not for me and the work that I did with him. And that was really the beginning of my transition out of being a full-time lawyer, part-time coach, and into being a full-time coach and a former lawyer. And
Awesome.
it made all the difference in the world to me. And I can't even imagine how much it made all the difference in the world to his mom and the family that he married into. And so, I tell my clients all the time, pay whatever it costs to make your dream come true. Put in
Yeah.
the effort, right?
Yep.
Because once you get what you want, you never have to look back.
There you go. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.